We got again some update on the entire province to stay home. Following a sharp increase in deaths and hospitalization, Quebec Health Minister Christian Dubé is calling for all Quebecers to stay home, regardless of the alert region in their region. 1,364 cases, the highest single-day total ever reported in the province. It's the fifth consecutive day more than 1,000 cases reported. More than 200 of those new cases were in Quebec City, while Montreal had 223, or Montreal had 223, and the city of Montreal 442. That said, the contrary to the which was concentrated in Montreal, the entire province is feeling the impact this time. A more region could be dubbed red zone. The highest totally different. Totally different said. It's very difficult to say where you got it. While some experts have argued the province should have acted sooner in imposing restriction, the government did all it all could to prepare for the second waves. He blames the increase on people not taking public health regulations seriously. Please don't take the risk. Please don't test this hospital system, he said. The nurses and the doctors are what they are. Saying Quebecers, please stay home. On Monday, the province introduced further restrictions in the red zone, including banning organized sports and leisure activity, as well as making masks mandatory in the classroom for high school students. The Quebec City struggles to keep up with contact tracing. Over the last month, Quebec City went from having about 100 cases per week to having over 1,000 cases. Now, health officials in the region is asking the public to help curb the spread, and not just by following the hygiene guidelines such as hand washing, physical distancing, and wearing masks. This spread, which is largely community-based, is making each public health investigator more difficult, said the public health director for the Quebec City area. He said that contact tracing teams have been working at max level, concluding about 200 investigations per day, but is that not enough, as some people aren't being reached in a timely manner, he said. In the newly revamped website, health officials in the region had compiled information on contact tracing and how it works, and they also put out a call for application to help with contact tracing efforts and testing. Officials said also asked those who have COVID-19 to reach out to those they came in contact themselves. The Canadian Top Dollar Thanksgiving celebration urged that Canadians celebrate Thanksgiving online. The Health Minister, Patty Head, is telling Canadians to celebrate Thanksgiving virtually this weekend to avoid spreading COVID-19. She said in an effort, it is an act of love to celebrate over video links instead of person because of the rising number of COVID-19 cases. Dr. Teresa Tam, Canadian Chief Public Health Officer, said meeting with family members can create a false sense of security and increase the risk of spreading the federal officials said earlier Tuesday that 3.4 million Canadians have downloaded the government COVID-19 alert app. A total of 160,000 downloads occurred in the last 24 hours, officials said in a briefing. They could not say which provinces saw the highest uptick in usage. Quebec became the latest province to adopt the application on Monday. Federal officials said earlier Tuesday that 3.4 million downloaded the government COVID app. Health Canada approved an Abbott rapid test last week. The ID now, which is a molecular test. The rapid antigen test, which is depending on the device, use matter collected for a nasal or throat swab. Don't require the use of a lab to generate the results. While much faster, those tests are considered to be less accurate than the gold standard, the PCR testing process currently used in Canada. President Donald Trump staged a dramatic return to the White House on Monday night, leaving the military hospital where he has been receiving an unprecedented amount of care for COVID-19. He immediately ignited a new controversy, declaring that despite his illness, the nation should not fear the virus that has killed more than 210,000 Americans, that he entered the White House without a protective mask. Trump message alarmed infectious disease experts and suggested that the president's own illness has not caused him to rethink his own cavalier attitude towards the disease, which has infected his wife and several White House aides, including new cases revealed on Monday. The Blue Room. Without wearing a face covering, minutes later, he tweeted a video of himself telling Americans not to be afraid of the coronavirus or let it take over their lives. Likely a difficult message for the families of those who died from the virus. He said he learned so much about the virus while in the hospital, talking about the best equipment average Americans do not have access to. He promised that vaccines are coming momentarily. Earlier, the president left Walter Reed Military Medical for a waiting SUV that carried him to Marine One for the short helicopter ride to the White House. Even before he walked out the door, he tweeted that he will be back on the campaign trail soon. The 74-year-old Trump was expected to continue his recovery at the White House, where he would be carried around the clock by a team of doctors and nurses. He announced his coronavirus diagnosis early Friday. His doctor, Navy Command Sheen Conley, told reporters Saturday Monday that Trump remained contagious. Trump returns home comes after he received an extremely aggressive course of treatment. Uncharted. A exploded laden truck ignited Tuesday on a busy street in Norris opposition fighter, killing at least 14 people and wounding dozens, the Turkey state-run news agency and Syria opposition advocacy reported. The blast in the town of Abba Tukshan, where people often gather to travel from one region to another, according to opposition civil defense, also known as the White Helmet. The explosion caused widespread damage to the buildings in the area and set vehicles on fire in a town located near Abba. A number of women and children, the report by the Turkey state news media reported. Central home and a small market, a base in the northern Syria, which by the activist base in the northern Syria who goes by. He said, along with the civil defense, that the blast killed 14 wounded many others. We will be right back on the Boland Report. Welcome back. Last meeting today. Advocate. Caused by the facing Canadians and Americans, people. A lot of those drugs are coming in from China and Latin America. My next guest is an advocate for those affected by the overdose crisis, including advocating for drug reform. Please welcome Daniel to the show. Welcome back to the show. As mentioned, we have Daniel Sayer onto the show. Let's welcome Daniel.
Eric, how are you? I can see myself, but I have no audio of anything else, so hopefully we're okay. Good old technical difficulties. Isn't that great, eh? You let me know if we're good to go, or you ask me a question, and if I can hear you, I will answer. Hopefully, I'll be entertaining.
Here we are. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, as we are both from beautiful British Columbia, one part. Can you just introduce yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, I'm a project coordinator in Langley, which is outside of the city of Vancouver. We focus on the overdose crisis in our area, and I coordinate projects that are responding to the crisis. Primarily, my interest is in educating the community and training individuals in naloxone, reducing stigma, and advocating for drug policy changes. Okay.
As we are both from beautiful British Columbia, Dr. Bonnie Harry declared a health crisis on the overdose crisis just in 2016. Can you explain to our viewers what's been happening over the last few years to spark the emergency of the health crisis?
Yeah, well, Eric, if we go back to the mid-90s, overdose rates in the province were fairly steady. About 250 people on average in a given year would die as a result of a fatal overdose. And then all of a sudden that number spiked very dramatically in 2015, 2016, up to about 1,500 in that year, 2016. So numbers not declined really at all since then. And the driving force behind that, of course, is the synthetic opioid fentanyl, which has contaminated the entirety of the drug supply. So when I say that, if we look at data captured in 2012 in terms of how much fentanyl was detected in overdose deaths, it was about 4%. But by 2018, we are at about 87% of overdose deaths, fentanyl was detected. So that's the driving force here. We're not talking about increased drug use. We're talking about a change in the drug supply.
So this is like the chart I have on the screen. Just shows the number of the drug toxins by death, correct? And the death rate per year.
Yeah, so this was captured, this graphic is a bit earlier in 2020. We've already surpassed the 2019 total this year, which 2019 we were down a little bit, 979 fatal overdoses. But we're past 1,000 already for 2020, so clearly the number's back up. And it seems that the pandemic has obviously played some role in that.
Okay, speaking of the pandemic, since the beginning of March, when the pandemic was declared, we have lost almost 200 people per month from drug overdoses. That's in British Columbia alone. What is the cause of the sudden increase in deaths And does the Canadian border closure with the U.S. plays a part?
I think the border closure plays some role. It's hard to really capture with data precisely why the pandemic is playing a role in increasing overdose deaths. There's definitely some anecdotal evidence that we could refer to. I mean, it's clear that the pandemic is taking a toll on people's social and emotional states. And for 4 years, with the onset of the public health emergency, we've been telling individuals to not use drugs alone, to be with a buddy, and we've been training people with naloxone. And then all of a sudden, come March this year, we are telling people that they should keep a distance from others and self-isolate, and stay at home. So, with 75+% of fatal overdoses happening in private residences, it's no surprise that more people are using substances alone. And as a result, we see, due to the toxicity of the drug supply, just an increase in overdose deaths. Referring to the border closure, it's difficult for suppliers to get substances into the country. It's never been impossible. I mean, drug enforcement is a futile effort in terms of stopping drugs entering countries. It's a waste of tax dollars. And honestly, the fact that that's been interrupted somewhat by border closures is only shown to increase toxicity. So we've seen since March increased fentanyl concentrations in drug deaths. So this means the drugs are fentanyl, probably one of the easiest of all substances to smuggle because of its potency and the lack of the ability to or package. It's not a surprise that becomes the buff of choice in terms of getting more fentanyl into the country is not difficult. Does that answer your question? I seem to have lost background audio there.
Here we are. Can we hear?
Yeah.
So does that help with so in the beginning of the year, the BC was on a downward trend for the first 2 months, year over year, and then the pandemic started. What policy did the BC government kind of brought in to introduce that?
What policy was resulting in positive change in terms of decreased rates? Yeah. We've been doing a lot in terms of education. The take-home naloxone program in British Columbia has distributed tens of thousands of naloxone kits, which have saved many, many lives. And just getting those into the hands of individuals who are using substances and individuals who may be at risk of overdose has definitely played a significant role. The fact that we've been pushing the message of drug testing, getting people access to drug testing strips or drug testing facilities, safe consumption sites, all those sorts of things probably have some impact. Again, it's one of those things that's definitely hard to capture with data. We know that as long as fentanyl is present in the drug supply, we're not going to really see dramatic decreases. So while policies such as decriminalization are on the table, many don't feel that would ever go far enough in terms of really stopping drug deaths. Safe supply, another policy in terms of helping individuals who have treatment-resistant addictions, that is, that they've made multiple attempts to make changes in their life or stop or reduce their use, and instead we are going to help them by giving them a prescription-grade drug supply of opioids. That plays a role, but it's not without its complications as well.
Okay, so speaking of that, so policymakers and lawmakers in Canada and U.S. has been working on fixing the issues of the overdose crisis, including the safe injection site like the one downtown, low barrier homeless shelters,
shocking and counterintuitive to most people when they hear it, because it sounds like we are going to just make drugs a free-for-all. And I don't know if we have the time to get into the complexities of conversation about regulating drugs, but alcohol and cannabis are good examples of what can and will happen when regulated and safe. If you go to the liquor store and buy a bottle of wine or a bottle of whiskey, you read the label, you know what is in that bottle, and you're very confident that what is in that bottle is what is on the label. You don't have any concerns that you're buying a tainted product because we've regulated that. In addition, we've put that product behind a barrier that makes it difficult for youth to access. So there are plenty of stories of young people who have easy access to cannabis, primarily one of the most popular drugs of use, and yet they have very difficult time accessing alcohol because it requires a ID and an adult that's willing to purchase that for them. So I think that really, if we've arrived at a time in our societies where prohibition models have failed. It's very clear that we are not going to eradicate drug use, that drug enforcement in terms of stopping drugs coming into the country is a futile effort. And so it's time to take a look at new policies that consider how we can just focus on reducing the harms of drug use. So regulating is not about condoning or accepting or saying drug use is normal or that we should enable it in our societies. It's about learning to live with it.
Okay. In 2017, Justin Trudeau enacted the marijuana law. So we became the second country in the world to legalize or decriminalize. How do you think that has been working in Canada?
Poorly. I think it's a process, and we're just impatient. So the black market has not gone away as quickly as the federal government would like. Most people that I talk with are still buying cannabis illegally because they can get a high quality product for a cheaper price than the government regulated stores. So, it's going to take some time for this to balance out. The transfer of power from the black market to the regulated market is something that needs to happen, but will happen slowly. And obviously, the government is going to have to take a look at what they're doing wrong and what they can do to bring down the prices so that they are the primary supplier. And that will take some time, but we will get there.
Okay. So when we will be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about the issues of crime and how the overdose crisis can be resolved. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Recently, the local media has been talking about the increasing crime rate in the downtown core of Vancouver, including an assault at a Vancouver park near a homeless camp. Many cities around North America, especially in Vancouver and Seattle, have been risen worries about the increasing issues of crime, including assaults, homeless using the streets as their washrooms, theft, break-in, and other similar crimes. Uh, Daniel, do you support more tough on crime or a drug court system or a mix of both?
I don't know if I can really answer that question. I mean, I think crimes such as robbery, theft, assault, those kinds of things need to not be entirely conflated with addiction exclusively. Not to say that addiction doesn't occasionally or sometimes come along with those types of crimes. I mean, I'm 100% in favor of decriminalizing personal possession of drug use. Obviously, I think that that's a step in the right direction. But I do think, yes, that we probably are a little bit too lenient on repeat offenders when it comes to violent crimes and other types of repeat crime that happens even in connection to substance use. So we do need to take a look at that. I mean, I agree that big cities are having major problems with homelessness and that kind of thing at the moment. What is interesting is that this conversation really requires some extended dialogue to dig into the roots that are underneath substance use and addiction so that we can start looking at those and what can really help individuals that are struggling with it, because it's not about coerced treatment. All now find that when they're provided with a safe supply of drugs that A, they're not at risk of overdose with, and B, they don't have to spend all that time hustling for, that they have an incredible amount of time on their hands to consider their life, to stabilize, to seek housing, perhaps to even seek employment, and to get other aspects of their life in order. And what has happened in the UK and in a more extensive program in Switzerland, individuals that were enrolled into a program like this, over a period of time, their lives stabilized, and many of them on the heroin program tapered down, or even completely tapered off to the point that they were no longer enrolled. So the idea of giving drugs to people with addictions sounds like the age-old conversation about enabling addiction, and really it's not quite that simple. It's far more complex, and we need to take a look at how we can address these issues in a progressive way that considers the individual and considers how we can connect with the individual and really take a look at their life rather than being punitive and being preoccupied with exclusively the outward behavior. So we've been so focused on drug use. Drug use is bad. Let's punish the drug use. Let's stop the drug use, that we've completely ignored what's driving it. And in most cases, that's a lifetime of pain and trauma and disconnection from society and from those who care and love these individuals. So we need more compassion for sure, which is not to say that we turn a blind eye to behaviors that are not. So it's a complicated issue that needs a lot of conversation.
In their life.
Those that are affected by substances in such a way that they really develop problems are a small percentage, and of those that become homeless or die is an even smaller percentage. With that said, though, we need to find a way to connect with those individuals and to help them. There's potential in everyone, and what that potential looks like is different. Each person is unique. Some of them may need treatment and may want treatment and may want to and a different way of life. Others may not, and so that question is relevant and important.
So, yeah, correct. So we just have a minute left. We have a couple minutes left in the
always employed, always had a vehicle. And if you knew me in those years, you would not have thought perhaps that I was struggling in that way. I kept it hidden, and that was due to the intense shame and stigma that I felt as a result of my behavior, which I was not happy with. So, we need to consider how we think and talk about these issues. We need to consider our own attitudes towards substance use and the people who are struggling with substance use and addictions, because there's something underneath it. It is pain. It is trauma. It is things that people have a difficult time facing. And if we are part of the problem in the sense that we are further shaming, isolating, separating, stigmatizing these people in our societies, then we are actually not helping them to make changes. I work with an organization in Langley called We All Play a Role, and we train people on these particular issues with a great focus on reducing stigma and our own attitudes towards substance use, as well as training people in the lock zone. And we can be found at We All Play a Role Langley on Facebook or Daniel Snyder1 on Twitter. So thanks, Eric. I'm glad you're passionate and interested in this issue. I think that our society has a long way to go, but we are moving forward in terms of our attitudes and policies towards substance use.
Thank you, Daniel, for being on the show. When we come back, here's the latest stock market update. The Dow Jones was down 375 points due to Donald Trump ordering the delay of the COVID-19 economic package and negotiation with the Democrats till after the election. The TSX was closed down 174 points. When we come back, the latest headlines and more. Eddie Van Halen, the guitar virtuoso who finding speed, control, and innovation propel his band, Van Halen, into one of the hard rock biggest groups that beat it, and became elevated to the statue of rock god, has died. He was 65. A person close to Van Halen family confirmed the rocker died Tuesday due to cancer. The person was not authorized to publicly release the detail in advance of the official announcement. His son also confirmed his death and the cause on Twitter. I can't believe I'm having to write this. My father, Ever Lemda Van Halen, has lost his long battle with cancer this morning. With his distinct solo, Eddie Van Halen fueled the ultimate California party band and helped knock the chart starting with the late studies. With his band, site title debut album, and with the blockbuster record 1984, which contains classic Jump, Paramount, and Hot for Teacher. Van Halen is one among the 20 top best-selling artists of all time. The band was indicted into the Rock and Hall of Fame in 2007. Rolling Stone magazine put Eddie Van Halen at number 8 in its great list of the 100 greatest guitarists. The Church of England apologized after damning reports on child sex report is released. The Church of England has failed to protect children from sexual predator within the ranks for decades, allowing an abuser to hide in an attempt to defend its own reputation rather than following a duty to protect young people. An inquiry said on Tuesday. The church apologized for the abuse and said it would learn lesson from the inquiry. From 1940s to 20 from the sexual abuser instead of having a culture where perpetrator could hide and victims face barriers to close that many could not overcome. Professional Alex J., the chair of the inquiry, said, If real and lasting change was to be made, it improves the way it responds to allegations from victims and survivors and provide proper support for those victims over time, she added. The primary concern of many senior clergy was that to uphold the church reputation, the inquiry said. Senior clergy often declined to report allegations to the appropriate agency and hinder criminal investigation, allowing some abusers to escape justice. When we come back, we got some final thoughts on the whole wishing people death. Last Friday, Donald Trump was diagnosed with the COVID-19. During the midst of the whole coronavirus pandemic, where 210 Americans have passed away, sadly, there was a huge support for the president for his prayers of recovery. But also on the opposite end of the spectrum, there was many people wishing death, including many celebrities, many people on Facebook, And what is wrong with that you have to wish death on someone? Let's take Trump out of this equation. You don't wish death on people regardless of their political views or belief. It's totally wrong, immoral, and just wrong. And all these people who say that they love and tolerate others for their viewpoint are the one wishing, I don't care, regardless of your political views, you do not wish death on someone else. If their views different, if you don't like them, you don't wish them death. To all those people that wish death on the President of the United States, I know you don't like his policies. I know you don't disagree with him. But to wish death and harm on him and his family is totally wrong. And frankly, you're inhumane to wish that upon someone else. And I have to condemn Twitter and Facebook for not taking down the posts of those hugely offensive posts and tweets. Some of them are still up even today. Regardless of your political beliefs, regardless of your religious or your political or personal belief, we should try to love all people. We should try to compromise, love each other. Of course, we can have friendly debate on the issues that affects us personally. But wishing death, injuries, or harm on another person is totally wrong. I can fully condemn those people who do. And I really hope that those who are doing that and watching the show, I really hope that you just take a look inside yourself and just look at how you treat others. Because if you're tweeting or you're posting love all people, and then you're wishing death on another person, you are regardless, we should love, we should care. Even in the midst of a global pandemic that has killed hundreds of thousands of people and affected and uprooted millions upon millions of people around the world through economic or illness, we should try to care, try to love, as I mentioned. Wishing people to be wrong, like I said, if you're one of those people, just take a look at yourself and think about what you're doing. Think about what you're doing with your life, and just compartmentalize your. I want to thank you for watching the Boland Report. apparently the audio didn't work on the last time, so I'm going to repeat what I just said. We got some breaking news into the newsroom. Donald Trump has authorized the release of classified documents in relation to the Russian probe, Hillary Clinton, and other information. So Donald Trump has authorized the release to that just hours ago. Also another story that's breaking, Joe Biden has mentioned that should Donald Trump still have COVID, still test positive for COVID, that the debate scheduled for next Thursday, October 15th, will not happen should Donald Trump still be infected with the COVID and test positive. Another breaking story is after calling off COVID relief talks until after the election, Donald Trump say he's willing to sign a standalone bill that provides Americans with a $1,200 stimulus check. As always, have an awesome day. Just to let you guys know, a schedule change for tomorrow's show. We will be premiering the show at 9 p.m. Pacific or 12 a.m. Eastern right after the debate. We will provide the latest information on that on the Boland Report. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you for watching.